Okay, so now I'm going to show the very first layer of putting the paint onto an icon. And before I do that, I talked a little bit about transferring the image onto this board. And at this point, what I've been taught is that this is where it actually becomes a prayer. You will have been doing that beforehand, like you will chosen an icon for a particular reason. If there's some quality, the saint or the person that you're painting, like if I was doing a Buddha image or one of the Buddha's disciples, I might read up about that particular person. If there was a quality that they were known for, like say compassion, I might take on compassion practices and be doing them at the same time as I'm doing the research and finding out about the image. And so at this particular image, I just made a previous video where I talked about this particular image right here of how it was an interview. Stephen Colbert just mentioned that his mother praying to her icon, speaking to her icon, how that was really the first time I think I really got what it means to pray to an icon. And so I like this image. I think it's quite beautiful. And there is something about her face, and the other ones I've done, so some reason I connect with this icon. But I'm interested to see what will happen after hearing Stephen's story of how that will change my next icon of this particular image. And so what you do when you start an icon, I don't know if you call it opening the icon, but now that it's ready to go, you make a solution, which I'll show how to do here, with the egg solution we made earlier. I've always used raw umber and a little bit of yellow ochre to make a solution. And then what you do, what I've been told is that as you put the first layer of paint down, it kind of goes into the chalky glued surface and gives the future paints onto it something to adhere onto. And but it also, at the same time that you're applying that layer, you put a prayer into the icon. And I would say like you be mindful throughout the entire process, or bringing your intentions of what you want this icon to be for. Sometimes when I'm doing an icon, my prayer is that I want to learn from the icon. I want to just go deeper into it. Or sometimes I know it'll be a gift for somebody, and I'll do a kind of a prayer for that person, or have just good wishes for them, loving kindness, goodwill. And so this one, I'm kind of I'll be thinking of Stephen and his mother, and who I guess recently has passed away. And that's why Stephen has the icon now. But so here I'll show how I make the solution. And here I'll use the larger of the wells here, just because I do want to. So I just draw up a little bit. And if I were doing a painting, I would just put like 5 or 6 drops in like every other one of these for my solutions. But I'm just going to do like a whole dropper. It's about a whole dropper's worth there. I can be clumsy, so I am going to cover this back up so I don't spill it. And then I'm going to fill this entirely with water, quite a bit. And you'll find what solutions work best for you, or how much to mix up. I think if I just get that completely covered, yeah, that's probably going to be good. And then I usually have a smaller glass jar so that I can just set this in there, but that doesn't work right now. Then I take my paint scooper. And again, as I mentioned, every single time, if you want to know something, Google's a very good place to go and look for information. I'm just going to do 2 scoops of that. And the fun part of that whole process is, and so here's my tissue paper to kind of clean off so I don't contaminate the other pigments. Clean that off a little bit. Make sure it's dry. But if you go online and you read 5 or 6 people's explanations, 2 or 3, you're probably going to get 2 or 3 different explanations of how to. That's probably a little bit too much. And so I did like 2 of the raw umber and 1 of the yellow ochre here. And again, I'll clean that off. And you'll hear different ways of doing it. And I just sort of mix it up. But one person that I heard, and maybe I'll kind of do that here with this. Yeah, I can see that. I'm going to put a little bit more water into this. Probably about twice as much as I have there. So that's like almost 8 dropperfuls of water to 1 dropperful of egg solution. And one way I've heard of doing this is just actually let that sit for like 15 minutes and let all the heavier particles sink down to the bottom. I've tried that. It looks nice. And I've also done it just starting exactly from right here, right now. With this particular icon right here, you can kind of see between the kind of the gold stripes, there's kind of a modeling kind of look there. And that's just from that very first layer coming through what I'm going to do here. Now I don't know if the very first layering of the paint, if this is a joke of Father Damien's, because he does have a great sense of humor, but putting the very first layer of paint down is called chaos. And I love the image though. It's like, because what you're doing is as you're putting your prayer into the chaos, into the turbulence of our world, you're putting that prayer into it. And so you're starting with chaos. And the way you build up an icon, especially for me, especially the faces and the skin tones, is you start with the darkest color first. So I usually start off with, say, that's a kind of a solution of the burnt sienna, and sometimes it's even Mars orange, or no, it's the cadmium orange. Is it? I'll start with, actually it's the green oxide and the Mars orange, and it gives this really dark appearance. And I actually may even just do all of the flesh completely in that. And then you go up with a solution of a little bit of more of an orange color, and then you go to a solution of more the yellow ochre, and then it's yellow ochre with white, and then you just keep adding more and more white. So usually on my faces, like on this one here, now that I've mentioned that to you, especially in the hands, here you can see how it's really dark at the bottom, and kind of even around just the outsides. Like here, her face is pretty dark around the outsides, and then it just gets lighter and lighter, kind of as you go towards the center. So that might be 6 or 7 layers of paint, to sort of slowly getting that, they call pop, so the image pops out. But the whole thing will start off with just the chaos. And so from the chaos and then the darkness comes the light. And that's what an icon is usually about. It's the inner light. And the beautiful thing is that most people don't know this, but icons are actually supposed to be viewed under candlelight. And because it's so many layers and you're starting with this marble-like surface, the light actually reflects through the pigments. And so you're working with a very light color. So I'm going to take a break here just for a second because I want to protect this board underneath. And because when I do this, I sometimes get paint on the sides. So I'm going to take a break for just a second. I'll wait for you to film this. Welcome back. So I just put a towel down, and no matter where I'm painting, I usually just use paper towel because I use paper towels for other things as well. And but this is maybe a better solution, just getting a towel that can be washed every once in a while. And I'm going to, I said I mentioned sometimes I just use the solution as it is, but I'm going to very gently, you can see the solution there, I'm going to separate out maybe like 5 or 6 times here. I'll just take the top part off and try to leave the more solid pigments on the bottom. And the nice thing is because all that pigment is there on the bottom, if I do need more for this, I can just add more egg solution and water to this central area here. And I may even do that just before I start because I just in case I need more. So what I'll do is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'll do 3/4 of a egg solution in there. Clean that off a little bit. Okay, and I'll stir this too here just to get it to. And I'll let that settle, but I may not even use that, so we'll see. I'm going to put this over here because it does splash when we go on there. So, just, I've already been praying over this, doing my own meditation for the last couple of days. But I just make it real clear in my mind what my intention is, and that's private, so I'll leave that into my own heart. And just know that it's, have faith that it's being transferred into this image. And what you do is you just do what's called pooling. And this, I've never felt like I've done well. I think when I first did my first icon workshop with Father Damien, that I was too interested in getting further on and start painting. And so I'm never quite sure I've done this right. So if anybody's an expert who's watching this and you have some advice for me, please let me know. But what you do is you kind of put a dot below where the larger solution is, and then you're not trying to do any brush strokes or any, it's not about, seeing brush strokes, but you're just trying to get the entire surface covered in this chaos. I will do the entire image. I won't really distinguish between the border. This is kind of the halo on Our Lady Guadalupe right here. I think what I'll do is I'll do all of the surrounding area that is the halo, just because if I run out of solution and have to use a different one, it's going to be a slightly different color. And I think it just works better if I kind of keep larger areas all the same. Even though, especially with the garments and everything to do with the figure, the flesh tones and jewelry and clothing, it'll probably be painted over so many times that you'll never even see the chaos. That's an interesting way of looking at it too. It's just that the more we refine our image and refine our technique, that the chaos starts to, of our life, maybe starts to disappear. That'd be nice. And I was even told, like there, I was kind of rushing, kind of drawing out a few lines. I was told not to do that, just to do a pool and connect it with what's already there. And you're trying to go wet to wet. So like I started here and then went around this direction. It was already kind of dry here. And so I don't know, maybe it would have been best to start in the corner and just continue to work. But like I say, I'm learning how to do this, and so I just telling you that I probably will do that differently the next time. We'll see. Because I know I do that when I'm doing the face. I'll start kind of up here and just work down. And when I get into doing the face, I will definitely, I'll do all the flesh tones at the same time. Just because, again, like if I run out of the solution, I kind of want all of the flesh colors to be roughly the same. And see, I've probably done maybe a half dozen of Our Lady of Guadalupe as an icon, and I was really trying to figure out what was the bare minimum that you needed to actually paint to have it be a beautiful icon? And I haven't figured that out yet. But sometimes when I just do this much right here, I think it's done. If you can see that. There's something to me that's just quite subtle and quite beautiful about this. And I guess one of my teachers, Ajahn, used to always get up and, not always, but at least once, he got up to give a Dhamma talk, and just there was a long silence and probably contemplating his thoughts, what he wanted to say, and made some sort of comment like, I wish I had the nerve just to sit here and say nothing. And it's always struck me that there was beauty just in you're expecting to hear something from somebody, but they just, they have that strength or that beauty about them just to be 100% confident being silent. Sauntering into silence. So maybe I'll try that here just for the rest of this icon. This seems to be working okay. I've never used a level, but it's probably a good idea to make sure that the surface that you're painting on is completely level. Because if it's obviously if it's tilted, all the solution is going to go to one side and not good. I got lucky that this seems to be fairly level. Okay, so I will leave it at that and may come back here. You can take this you can see there I added quite a bit just there at the end. I was trying to fill in a few little gaps or holes. It would have been fine to leave it as it was, but I intend to build this one up quite a bit, so it was okay to kind of do that. Maybe I'll come back here in an hour or maybe even tomorrow. That's what I'll do. Let's come back tomorrow and just do one quick shot, maybe even just a photograph of what it looks like. Because right now it's almost completely covered in water, the water solution, so we'll let that dry.